So when you get that mindset and you have that doubt, or you question yourself, or you have those failures, you're going to have them, but you have to dig yourself back out and say, I'm not going to sit here and beat myself up and say, oh, that class sucked, or, that's a waste of time, I'm never doing that again. Was having people around you and having mentors and having coaches to learn from.
Welcome to the show. I want to introduce to you this individual who, the power of social media, guys. This is the longest introduction in the history of introductions. I'm sorry. The power of social media. Just hang tight, okay, Erica? Right. The power of social media. I met this individual through another show that we did, another broadcast. She was a viewer. She commented. She was engaging. Good to see you guys. Please share if you don't mind. That would be awesome. And we connected. And she blew my mind. She is just fantastic. She is an educator. She's a researcher. She's an entrepreneur. She's a professor. And she's just an overall badass. And I just want to introduce to you, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show, Dr. Erica Boling. Hi, Erica. How are you?
Hello. Thank you so much for having me. It's super excited to be here.
Absolutely. We're excited.
I think I get just as excited talking to people here, virtually than when I have my conferences and presentations. It's that nervous energy that gets you so excited to talk and share your story. Yes. So I'm so excited, and thank you for giving me this time and space to share my stories.
Oh, absolutely. We are so pumped to have you. And if you wouldn't mind, go ahead and thank you, April. You're so sweet. April says, what an amazing intro, this babbling fool here. Thank you so much, April. You're so sweet. I know you're just being kind. Thank you. Why don't you go ahead, do us a favor, Erica? Do you mind telling our Nez Nation audience a little bit more about yourself, kind of stuff that I didn't really elaborate on in the introduction, so the Nez Nation audience can get a little context, please? Okay.
I wear multiple hats, actually. I'm a professor of education, associate professor of education. My area is in literacy, educational technology. I like to do research on the use of multimedia and education, online learning. My passion, I guess, deep down, I'm an educator at heart, whether it doesn't matter if I'm educating humans, educating animals, but I have a passion for my dogs. I have 2 Belgian Malinois and a Doberman, and I participate in a sport called French ring. And I basically took my passion for my dogs and competing and the athleticism, and I turned it into, well, at first it was a hobby, and then it just grew from there. And I actually founded what's called Northeast Canine Conditioning, LLC. Mm-hmm. That actually became Northeast Canine Conditioning. I have an online academy. Mm-hmm. And this kind of my passion and my hobby led me into the area of becoming an entrepreneur, a business owner. And in addition to educating people at the university, helping people take their high drive, crazy dogs and turning them into performance athletes. I've also taken my experiences as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, and I do coaching and help people turn their passions into profit, whether it's just, picking up some side gas money on the side, or potentially even looking at maybe a change in career. So I wear many different hats, and probably throughout tonight, I'll have the educator, the academic, the dog lover hat, but that's kind of a short summary of what I bring here to the table.
Oh man. And by the way, hey, Robert, good to see you. Good to see you, Roy and April. Yes. And this is kind of what, really drew me to Eric. And again, I think this speaks to the power. Robert had a great show yesterday talking about social media engagement and what that entails. I had Molly Mahoney on the show not too long ago, a few weeks ago. And she was talking about, how do we turn this into a living? How do we turn this into a business? How do we turn what we love into something that's viable so that we can actually live the life that we want, right? Yeah. Roy says, dog lover, proud, passionate pet parent. Absolutely. Very cool. And, so I can attest to everything that, Erica's talking about. So she had amazing comments on the stream. She added so much value. If you want to watch that show, go watch that show after this show. Obviously, don't go now. But listen to her comments, watch, listen to them. You can watch her comments and see the type of poignant questions she was bringing up, the kind of poignant advice and strategies and tips. She was it was just wonderful. And I remember this. I literally remember saying in the stream, I said, please, Erica, DM me because we need to talk. We need to chat. Everything she was saying was just golden. And behind the scenes, I talked to her and I talked to her about my strategies. I talked about things that I'm doing. We connected on the academic, side of things and how that can be sometimes a rough life. And it's not always, A, it's definitely not lucrative, but B, it's also, sometimes it can be really tedious with the sort of bureaucratic kind of side of it. And we connected on that. The power of social media, guys, the power of live video. Had I not, and by the way, Molly.
It's Molly.
Yeah, Molly is Molly. But what's funny is that, talk about the serendipity. What's crazy is that show was impromptu because we actually scheduled something and she wasn't able to make it due to some client, interference and just her schedule. And we went live, like literally just, completely spontaneously at that minute, and Erica happened to be on the show and it was just spectacular. Erica, you have really jumped all in on your canine conditioning, and tell us a little bit about how does that relate to being an entrepreneur and how did that get you into the gate, so to speak, or get you in the game?
Yeah. Basically, it started out, I was training for competition. My dog got injured, and it started out where I just wanted to learn how to keep my dog fit and healthy. Mm-hmm. And so I, was learning, what can I learn? I studied canine massage. I learned as much as I could, and I would go to other people's seminars. I was down with a trainer, he's well-known, called Ivan Balabanov. And it's in Florida. And during the summer, they'd have these real hot, days, and we'd take these long lunch breaks. And I would tell people, they would be watching me doing things, and they started asking me questions. What are you doing with your dog? And what stretch are you doing? And why do you do that? And it started out where I would just say, hey, if you want to hang out at lunchtime, come back an hour early, and I'll share with you the types of things I'm learning. So it started out as just kind of a passion where you develop an expertise. Right. And I did it for myself and I did it for my own dogs. But then people started coming to me and saying, what are you doing? And can you share? And I was just kind of doing it freely. And I would tell them, I'm still studying this, I'm still learning, but I'm happy to share with you. From that, it kind of grew where people would come up and they're like, do you do seminars? And I was like, yeah, I can do seminars. So it started from that to doing seminars where they would pay me. And I thought, this would be great just to make a little side money to pay for my travel and my gas and, my dog expenses. Right. And then it grew from there. I was doing a face-to-face seminar about 8 hours away from home, and a person couldn't make it. And they said, gosh, I really want to come to the seminar. I can't make it. I'm so upset I'm missing it. And I said, well, why don't I put some videos together for you? Some of the things I'm teaching, and I'll put them on a YouTube and just make it like a private link. Right. And I charged her. That was the beginning of what's now an online academy, but that was my very first sales with my online course. And it was just, I put together some videos. I charged $97. And from that, I kind of started to have this idea that I wanted to grow into like these online programs, and I was still doing face-to-face. And it just
blossomed from there, right?
It just blossomed from there. Yeah. And there's a couple of things, kind of things I learned to take away from this is at first, one of my mentors and a business coach, Jane Duber, she calls it our zone of genius. And it's when you have a skill, a knowledge, a talent base, something that you can contribute to others. Sometimes we think we know what that is, but I think there's a lot of times that others outside let us know what that zone of genius is. To give you an example, people were coming to me and they would Facebook me and call me, and they wanted me to give all this advice on their dogs, and their dogs had, issues going on. And I pushed them back at first. Right. I was like, I'm not a veterinarian.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, exactly.
And I literally, I pushed it back, and it was months. And they're like, but they don't understand. But you compete, but you do the same sport I do, and but I trust your opinion, and I just want to hear what you think. And I kind of pushed it away. It's like I didn't see myself in that role so much. And
Did you think that that was because of a lack of confidence, or was that just a lack of, because I see, and by the way, just really quickly, I want to say hello, Jeff. You got your shout out. Thank you for coming, Jeff. Jeff is an awesome member of Nez Nation. Roy, April, thank you, Megan, so much for being here. Naomi's in the house. I hope you're here, Robert.
Awesome.
I think a lot of people can relate to that, especially myself, because when you think about, coaching, teaching, online courses, which is becoming more and more of a burgeoning field, and people are kind of dipping their toes in that in different aspects, a lot of people, me being a professor, I used to look at people and be like, well, who are you to teach? I've been doing this for 25 years. Who are you to teach? And who are you to, where's your credentials? What's your credibility? And it wasn't until I started to realize, and it was pointed out to me actually, that it's not necessarily that you have to go all the way and have this master degree in a certain specific subject. Hey, Addie's in the house, Roy, Ali. It's just that do you know enough to where the person who needs to get the information maybe knows a little bit less than you. So here's a really good example. I, am not super adept. And Robert, actually, we just had this conversation. Absolutely fantastic, Robert. And I was just about to mention you. I didn't know I didn't even know about sort of a lot of the drip campaigns and the funnel campaigns of getting, into group coaching and using private Facebook groups. And Robert was really instrumental in showing me. I mean, even though I've been doing SEO, I've been doing digital marketing, I've been doing content marketing, I've been doing a lot, but there was certain aspects of it that I didn't know, but I was humble enough. I was at least, hey, Josh, good to see you. I was at least open-minded enough to go, and Erica's the same situation. Erica had fantastic information about monetizing your live streams, using webinars, using kind of packaged tier systems. I mean, this woman is just chock full of wisdom, guys. And I'm so excited to have you. And I love how you mentioned that, I started to kind of, you kind of have these self-doubts, and you kind of have these, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So you kind of started making these videos, and then what happened after that?
Yeah, then I realized, I'm an academic, I'm an educator, and I definitely at that time did not identify myself as a business person, as sales. I thought sales was kind of icky, trying to sell stuff, but I realized what I did was I purchased Jeff Walker's launch book. It's the product launch formula. And I learned about how to do a seed launch. And I basically followed the chapter in the book. I did exactly what he said. And I created an online course, and I made it, about $5,000 off of it. But I didn't know enough about marketing, online marketing. It was kind of just sitting there. I didn't have deadlines. And it was just, I would just say, hey, Facebook, I have this class if anybody wants to sign up. And I basically realized that if, I had great content, I knew I had a great course, and I knew my problem was I just didn't know how to sell myself. I didn't know how to market it. I needed to get the word out to more people. And so I think the next biggest thing was, number one, was to stop resisting and kind of embrace, when you have an area you can share with others, and kind of embrace that, even though you might have those insecurities, that, you have something that you can help others.
Right.
And the next biggest thing I think was I invested in, I recognized where there was a gap in my education. I recognized that I needed to learn more about marketing, about sales, this whole, social networking. I was doing a lot on Facebook, but, I was not selling things. And so I started investing. I started taking courses. I invested in a business coach. I went to conferences, and just really, when I'm passionate about something, I'm in 110%, I just dive all in. And that's what I did. I feel like in a very short amount of time, I got the equivalent of what would be like an MBA, and just intense hours and hours of studying, and learning from other experts. And that was where I started to see things really progress forward.
Yeah. And isn't it funny how the era that we're living in, and a lot of great comments here, a lot of great questions. Roy says marketing, making oneself visible to the right people. Robert, she sure did answer the question. This idea of, you know, so education, getting your degree, going through all these courses and the curriculum and getting your degrees and getting accreditation and getting certificates, that's definitely a way to go, you know, and Erica and I live in that space. But there's also, we're living in an era now where literally, if you put in the time, if you put in the effort, if you actually put in the research, I mean, the YouTube, the University of YouTube and Google, right? I mean, those are amazingly, I mean, effective. I mean, some of these, I just went on my Snapchat before this stream, and I literally had a conversation because I was getting messages back and forth with a few of my audience members talking about how these are not just, you know, kicks and giggles, these shows. These are actual shows where, and Robert had a great show yesterday too, that I think are actually just as informative, just as educational, just as helpful as any class you could take in a university. I mean, or any course you could take, really. I mean, I always feel like the power of conversation, you know, is one of the most powerful tools, you know, like actually hearing two people exchange ideas and exchange value. Josh says, yeah, go ahead.
Even us, you know, just our Facebook messages going back and forth, just, you know, seeing somebody online and asking them some questions and what did you do? Or, you know, I participated, you know, taking action when Molly was here and you were talking with her, that I wasn't just a passive listener. I engaged, I asked questions, and I saw people doing things that I want to do, or I see people being successful in an area that I want to be successful. And so I follow them, I ask them questions, I engage, I'm active. And you know, that's all a part of it. But number one is, you know, recognizing that area. Where are some of your weaknesses? And then putting yourself in that situation.
Josh asks a really interesting question. Robert, I want to get to your question too. Would you say getting a degree is not worth it anymore? Should you just start learning online instead of going to college? Now, I definitely have some thoughts about this, but I'd love to hear. I'd love to hear your because if I didn't mention this, and I can't remember if Erica did either. Erica is a tenured professor on the East Coast. What university again? It slips my mind.
I'm at Rutgers University.
Rutgers, that's right.
In New Jersey.
In New Jersey, yeah. And so, sorry, just a brain fart there. So I knew that. Don't get on me, guys. But I have a definite perspective on this. So, but definitely, I want to, you know, open the floor to somebody way more experienced in education than I am. Erica, what's your thoughts on Josh's question?
I mean, I definitely, we see a lot of people being successful, you know, that, you know, don't have the master's, don't have the doctorate. I do think in this day and age, just how general society looks upon degrees, there's research to show people having advanced, you know, having college degrees, having advanced degrees, when they look at income and, you know, how much it raises kind of their annual income that they have coming in. I mean, we do have research that shows that it does make a difference. And, you know, and people do, they attach, you know, if somebody comes out and they only have a, you know, high school diploma, you know, it's our culture, right? And the way they're going to look at, you know, when you're applying for jobs or trying to get jobs, or, you know, doing interviews and introducing yourself to people. So, you know, I think it does definitely still have a relevance. How much and to what degree? It seems like, you know, what you could do before with a high school diploma, then you needed a bachelor's, and then now people are requiring a master's. But like I said, I see a lot of people being, you know, successful in areas that aren't necessarily the area that they studied in, you know, so it's an interesting thing. And I will say this, whenever I'm being able to say, you know, I'm a professor or I'm a doctor, or, you know, whenever somebody acknowledges that you have that advanced study, there are some communities in some fields, even when it's not necessarily my immediate community that I interact with day to day, you do get kind of this kind of instant kind of credibility. Not in all communities. You know, I was just having an argument with somebody the other day, and I had, you know, a lot of science, and it was stuff about, you know, physiology, exercise science and stuff like that. And, you know, I have plenty of people, and they'll come and they'll be like, you know, I don't believe in science. I believe in what I see happens and what works in front of my eyes. I believe in my 20 years of experience, you know, and I just had that conversation this last weekend with somebody. But I do think there's there's definitely something to be said for education, whether it's that piece of paper saying you have it. I think it's going to depend on what are your goals, what are your intentions. If you're planning on working for somebody else, depending on what that field is, you know, that piece of paper, you know, can be totally your entranceway into the door. Or if you don't have that piece of paper, even when applying for certain universities, if you're at a Research One university and you have a doctorate and it's not at like an equivalent level, you may have a doctorate, but if it's not at the same kind of level university, like sometimes that will instantly just drop you to the bottom of the pile. You know,
I mean, so. I definitely, I love what you're saying. And I think it sounds like you'd probably agree with my assessment that it depends on context. Jeff says, those studies suffer from selection bias. People who go to college are usually more driven than people who don't. College isn't the determining factor. Absolutely, Jeff. I think it depends on context. I think for business, I think you would probably, you know, if you want to start your own business, if you want to be an entrepreneur, I definitely think that you need to assess, are you willing to go spend 4 years of your life getting a piece of paper and potentially, you know, coming out not that farther where you were when you came in and loaded with debt. I'm not a big fan of debt. And if I had it all, April says, I am more driven than a lot of people I know who have the piece of paper. You know, it depends on context.
Depends on the field. It depends on what you want to do.
Right.
You know, like I said, if you're applying to work for somebody else and they have certain criteria, versus if you're creating something your own, or if you're in a field where, you know, it just all depends on the context and what, you know, what kind of work you're looking at doing, and how it's viewed in, you know, by the people around you. I will say this because I say it all the time. It's just a piece of paper. It's just a piece of paper. And there's a million, billion, trillion people just like you getting a piece of paper. It's all what you do with it. Did you actually get real, applicable, transferable learning that lives beyond the page? I always tell my students, test my stuff in the real world. Don't listen to me. Don't listen to Professor Nez. You go test it out. Why do I need to be a better communicator? Why do I need to understand storytelling? Why do I need to supply specifics? Why do I need to be a good oral communicator? Why are my writing skills legitimate in the real world? Go test this stuff out in the real world. And otherwise, it's just in one ear and out the other, and it's just a piece of paper. Let me get to, I love what you said, context. Let me get to Robert, because Robert, if you're still here, give me an emoji. Give me a smiley face, you son of a gun. Robert has got great energy. He's a fantastic guy. How do you feel now? This is Robert's question. I think it's, and I love, guys, please share this out. Please leave comments. We are monitoring the comments vehemently. And I have my own questions for Erica, but I'm loving the interaction. This is a live broadcast. This is NEZNATION Live. So I am here for you guys. I want to listen to you guys. Robert says, how do you feel now after seeing what you didn't know about the business side? How the education system can change to help people for the future? Interesting. This is something I felt very strongly about before I ever got into the business side of things. I definitely think we need a total overhaul of our education system. I think it needs to be more practical based. We need to be having apprenticeships out in, you know, the workforce. So if you're, you know, if you're studying to be a teacher, you're out there next to the teacher. If you're, you know, studying to be, you know, getting a business degree, that your coursework, you're actually, you know, out there in the field, you're having experiences, you're being mentored. And I think we need to be doing that in the K through 12. I think high school kids need to be doing that. I don't think high school should be all just sitting at these desks, sitting behind their computer, you know, doing, you know,
remembering dates.
You know, and I felt very strongly about that, you know, before I ever, you know, ventured into the side of, you know, the whole entrepreneurial world.
I actually had, hey, Clay, good to see you. Thank you for joining. Theory. Okay. Robert says theory and practical together should it's not how many times you went through what you learned as much as it is how many times you learned what you learn goes through you. Oh, very nice. Very nice, like Roy. That. So I actually had a client, you know, which was it was a for-profit school. I'm not going to mention any names, but they asked me to do some curriculum design, and they reached out to me and said, hey, can you help us? Tell us what we're doing wrong. And you know what I said, Erica? I told them point blank. I said, the biggest problem I see in education is capital R, resistance. I had a great guest on, Dr. Halsmer, Dr. David. If you're watching this in the replay, Doctor, good to see you. If you're here right now, I don't see you, but just big shout out to Dr. David Halsmer. Everybody should follow him. He's a fantastic researcher doing great things in live video, much like you, Erica. I think you two should definitely get together. And he was talking about he got a PhD in workplace disengagement and researching, you know, kind of what's happening in the workplace in the 21st century. And he discovered this 400-year-old way of thinking, and that, you know, the dinosaurs are running the asylum, so to speak. and they don't want to change. They're resistant to the technology. Technology is advancing exponentially. Technology is surpassing, you know, every second. I mean, if you do a course on social media, this is what I think is so funny when people do courses on social media or courses on digital marketing, or even a book. You want to write a book on Facebook. Guess what? That book is going to become completely null and void and obsolete a week later because the algorithm just changed. Right. So, so I say resistance. I told them, I said, be immersive, embrace the changes, embrace the technology, embrace what the young people are doing, what your consumers, what your clients, what your business, your customers want. Right. I mean, they're on Instagram, Snapchat, they're on Facebook, they're on WhatsApp, they're on Musical.ly, you know, because that's their main way of engaging with each other. That's their main way of communicating with one another. So why not? You know, I talk about live video in my classes. I talk about Instagram marketing in my classes. I talk about storytelling, 21st century storytelling, which is that's what social media is, really. It's 21st century storytelling. April says, my son is on the autism spectrum, and it drives me crazy how many teachers can't think outside the box. I love what you said there, April. Robert says, Nez, like me, trying to get that teaching job at that college, I have all the real practical knowledge, but not the paper to back it up. Yeah. Robert, don't worry. We're going to hook you up. I'm going to pull a couple strings, my friend. So, I mean, resistance. And isn't that on a macro level, don't you think, Erica? Resistance. I mean, we resist. Should I be doing webinars? Should I be doing digital? Who am I to be coaching on, you know, dog training and massage?
I think it's pretty complex. You know, one of the things that I study is I look at helping teachers integrate technology into their classrooms. And you look at these very deep beliefs that people have from childhood about what is education, what is a teacher, how do we teach, how do we learn, right? And trying to shake things up, there's resistance, but I think we have to go a little bit more deeply to see why is that resistance there. Resistance can be, you know, because of fear, fear of change, fear of failure. Also, I see at the university, you know, where people aren't as technology, you know, they're not as advanced or as, you know, comfortable with technology as I am. You know, it's really scary because they look at, I have to, you know, you have a crazy schedule, you have a lot of work to do, you're having trouble fitting everything in. And then now you're like, you mean I have to learn this, this, and this, and this, and do all of that on top of my regular job.
My regular schedule,
and I don't know if I can do it well. And I don't even know, like they never learned in the way that we should be teaching. So it's like, how do you teach with technology and even envision what's possible if you've never experienced it yourself and you've never learned that way?
Right.
So I think that resistance, there's definitely a lot of resistance. It's really hard to make, you know, significant change in a lot of these different environments, but I think it's pretty complex on why that resistance is there.
Right.
It's frustrating. It can be very frustrating. But you know, it's pretty complicated.
I completely agree with you. Robert, great. Roy says, why go to the negative first when you can say what you have if I succeed because I believe I can? Love it. Josh says, definitely feel this on the macro. Robert says, for getting into business, to conquer the fear, you have to have the faith you can do what you want to do. Now, there's a lot of commencement speeches. Thank you guys for the beautiful comments.
Yeah.
There's a lot of commencement speeches. People are graduating, and I'm hearing a lot of interesting different commencement speeches. I actually thought Will Ferrell gave one at SC that I thought was really interesting. It wasn't funny at all. He wasn't trying to be funny. He was actually trying to be really kind of, transparent and honest and just give solid advice. And I was hearing this sort of ubiquitous theme, which was, failure. And I love what you said to, the fear of failure. I tell my students all the time, and I'm sure that, obviously we're all aware of it being a little bit older. I'm just going to say a little bit. I'm just going to say a little bit older. But I have some students watching this, and they may be watching this on the replay. You have to understand that failure is inevitable in life.
Yes.
Failure is inevitable in life. Tom Hanks at Yale was amazing. Oh, I'll have to watch that. Okay, he gave a commencement speech there. Fantastic. Yeah. So I love Tom Hanks. So, you have to understand that if failure is going to be your number one barrier to entry, then you're not going to do anything because failure is inevitable.
Failure is your biggest teacher.
It's a great teacher.
It's your best teacher.
It's a great teacher.
It's your best teacher. Yeah.
And I feel like that's just a little tweak. That's just a mindset shift.
It's a mindset.
That's what I talk about on my YouTube channel all the time. My whole YouTube channel is dedicated to my 7 books, all about the guy that lives inside your head whose favorite word is can't. That's his favorite word. And everybody has one of those dudes that lives inside there, right?
Or a couple of them.
Oh, no, I didn't want to go there. It's a committee. Yeah.
I saw more of a fight. I love on this. The side. That's my hobby.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like
boxing.
Yeah. It's like kickboxing sometimes. Jeff says a beautiful quote from Winston Churchill: "Success is walking from failure to failure with no loss of enthusiasm." Beautiful, Jeff. I love it. Yes. Getting accustomed to failure, being okay with failure, understanding that failure doesn't mean jack. All failure, it's not something to take personal. It doesn't mean that you suck. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't be doing what you're doing necessarily. Maybe it just means you need to go into a different direction. That's all.
Exactly.
And it took me years. Here's another thing about education. Robert, all you guys watching, Jeff, Roy, we're not discussing this in education. We're not discussing the human element. More and more people are, basically decrying a liberal arts degree. More and more people, even the president, really, even the former president, Obama, advocated STEM studies, science, technology, engineering, math. But what good is all that science? What good is all that technology? What good is all that engineering and math if you don't know who you are? If you don't know your purpose, if you don't know how to tell your story, if you don't know how to communicate that to the world, what good is it? It's all going to just stay in there. It's just going to get rusty in there. So, I think what I'm getting from you, Erica, is that it took some struggle. It took a mindset tweak,
a mindset change.
And then once you committed to that, you're succeeding. You're doing, and you're not even near. You're just scratching the surface, girl. I can feel it because from our conversations, and I think that you're definitely ahead in that context than I am, and I want to learn from you. I'm an open, receptive apprentice if you'll have me, and I'm probably going to take your course too. It's about that kind of idea of not letting it get in your way. Yeah. Did you have to learn that the hard way, Erica, or how did you come up with that?
Yeah.
How did that tweak happen? Because so many people watching right now, and so many people
make it sound so easy. It's not easy.
It's
that mindset that is not easy. So before I forget, because some of this, I have a handout. If people are interested, they just put handout in the comments, I'll get it out to you. But I have a handout on the 10 tips on turning your passion into profit. And I thought it was kind of the 10 biggest tips of things I kind of learned that made me successful. And so some of these things we're talking about, I'll send it out afterwards. But if people want it, just put handout in the comments and I'll send it to you.
And also, before you answer about the mindset, Erica is also going to leave all of her information, her contact information in the comments. So we already got a bunch of people asking for the handout, and I'm going to write that too. Nancy, Roy, Robert.
I'll get them out after we're done.
So she's going to leave all of her contact information. Yeah. I'm telling you, Erica is on fire. So we need to, this is a really great show. I got to talk about
this mindset because this is so, I talk with a lot of people and even with my teachers at the university. So the thing is it's a mindset, but I told you I wanted to tell them the marathon story.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
the
yeah.
idea
Please.
and I truly, this is from when I got my PhD
Good
all the
job,
way
Robert.
up, but the power of having these just wonderful mentors and coaches to guide you on the way.
Yeah.
So what happens is I was in Michigan, I was working on my dissertation, and I was a runner, and I just was losing motivation. I was running 3, 4, 5 miles and just not running by myself a lot. And so I decided to join a local running club to get motivated to run. Well, I was just wanting to run like 5 miles, 5, 6 miles. People in the running club, they were doing like half marathons and marathons. And I was like, I never thought, half marathon, you're crazy. Everybody around me was running half marathons and marathons. Next thing I knew, I did a 10K. Then I did a half marathon. And everybody's around me. They're all training marathons. Next thing you know, I'm doing a marathon. And it's the same thing in the business world. I saw the same thing happen. You don't envision this, like you see yourself here, but it's having others around you who are achieving things that maybe you don't even think is possible, but you're seeing them doing it. You're in the culture, you're in the mentality, you see them striving for something more. And
Beautiful.
That's one thing that helps to give you go, wow, me run a marathon, and then
Exactly.
all of a sudden it's like,
me start a business.
I did multiple marathons.
Yeah.
And the same thing happened when I was thinking about joining a mastermind and having a business coach. And it was a big investment. And I was kind of like, it's really scary. I'm not one to take, financial risks. And it was everybody, I kind of interviewed people in the program. I'd have like an hour talk, like, what's it like in the mastermind? And was it a good investment? And, I like interviewed them. Hours.
Vetting them. Yeah.
And what happened was everyone I talked to, they saw something in me and they saw possibilities that like, they envisioned for me a future that like, I didn't even envision for myself. I saw myself here and they're like, no, like they saw me here. And it's just been, so when you get that mindset and you have that doubt or you question yourself or you have those failures, you're going to have them, but you have to dig yourself back out and say, I'm not going to sit here and beat myself up and say, oh, that class sucked, or, that's a waste of time. I'm never doing that again. Was having people around you and having mentors and having coaches to learn from, but also they're the ones I can't tell you how many times I would, be selling something or had an online webinar and say nobody bought anything. And I'm like, oh my gosh, nobody bought, and you start to question the value. And I would jump on Facebook and I would have a friend of mine and she was like, come on, Erica, it's a numbers game, follow up, email them afterwards. The game's not over. It's not just that webinar. This is, the real stuff begins with the follow-up afterwards. And I learned so much from, this advice and having the people surrounded for the support, for the education. And when you start to do that, beating yourself up and falling into that negativity, at least for me, I needed that person to kind of, kick me in the butt and be like, get out of that mindset. Come on, look at all the success you've had in the last 3 months. Okay, you had one bad week, bad week. Look at and I did that one time. I had one day I was really beating myself up. And then I sat down and I looked at what I'd accomplished in 3 months. And I was like, oh my God, why am I sitting here feeling bad for myself? Look at all my successes. And I was just focusing on that one, bad week.
Right.
And I just, in my handout, that's one of the things I say is, having that mentor and also being comfortable. Oh, one thing I said on the handout is you cannot be a perfectionist.
It doesn't exist.
You cannot be a perfectionist because you get frozen. You don't want to take action, and you'll be like, "Oh, my content for my webinar isn't good enough. Or my lighting's not good enough. My microphone's not good enough. I have to wait until I get a better microphone. I have to wait until I have a bigger audience. Whatever.
Yep.
If you're waiting until you have that perfection, like nothing's going to happen, and you're not going to be learning and trying and stumbling and learning from. You're better off just jumping in, making some of those mistakes, learning from it, and then you're going to be so much further down the road, say 3 months later, than if you just sat there waiting until you felt completely confident and comfortable and and that it well before making a step forward.
And it's interesting. I love what you're saying here. Everything. I mean, isn't she great, Nez Nation? Give a smiley emoji. How much do you love Dr. Boling, having Erica on the show? Just fantastic. Nancy says, Erica, please send us information on your course after this live event. Thank you. She's going to leave everything in the comments.
Yep.
You know what Jeff, Roy says the first time you do a thing is the worst time you do that thing. So just start driving your car because you cannot steer a parked car. Wow. Yeah. Roy, fantastic. Good comment there, Jeff. Dre's album. Okay, so what I tell my students is the same thing I tell my writing students. I say the hardest thing about writing, literally, Josh, if you're still in here, Lickner, the hardest thing about writing is sitting down. What does that mean? You talk yourself out of it. You psych yourself out of it. Josh, yes, I just feel like mine isn't good enough yet. Yeah, exactly. That's a mindset shift. It's never going to be good enough if you start off that way. It's never going to be good enough. So what do I mean by it's kind of like I always use the exercise story. How many times have you guys, and Eric, I'm sure can relate to this, and we can relate to this on the macro level too. How many times have you gotten off of work? It's in the afternoon, late evening, early evening, and you know that you need to hit the gym. You have this idea like, I got to keep my exercise going. But then, Dr. Phil is on, or Judge Judy, and that ice cream sitting in the refrigerator is so enticing, and your bones, Facebook, and you're laying on that big couch of yours. I'll just go tomorrow. And then you feel like crap because you didn't go. Now take that same scenario. You look at the Facebook, you're tired. You know, you don't want to do it, but you force yourself to get out of that mindset. You just say, no, I'm going to go. I know I don't feel like doing it. And then 99% of the time, if I think 100%, I'm going to be mild here. 99% of the time, you feel tremendous. So the thing that I always say is once you get over that little resistance hump, it's that resistance hump. Get away from that little psychological trap of, oh, I'm tired, Facebook, ice cream, Judge Judy. I'll just go tomorrow. That's a famous phrase with a lot of my clients. I'll just do it tomorrow. I got plenty of time tomorrow. Yeah. I'll grade the paper tomorrow. Do it now. Do it right this second. Do whatever it is you need to do. Do it now. You will never regret it. Yeah. Robert says, you learn to pivot yourself when your mind clears and you can truly see your vision more clearly. Very well said. Addie says, I really needed this show. All right, Addie. Vision. Addie, I think that's one of your graduates.
From Israel. He's a graduate from my elite K9 program.
Shabbat Shalom, Addie.
Thank you for coming. Awesome. Vision. You mentioned vision. I want to say something about vision.
Please.
Another thing, that mindset is, especially if you're going in the route of an entrepreneur. It's a bumpy road.
Let's put it in context.
Right.
Yes.
You're going to have successes. You're going to fail. You're going to have successes. It's a roller coaster ride. And one of the things that really helps me also, have that correct, frame of mind that's going to help me is, and this is something I did early with some of my coaches that I worked with, is kind of having this vision and kind of visualizing, why am I doing this? What kind of life? It's not just for my business, but like, what kind of life do I want? What is the purpose? I want to have the business, but it's going to, I'm going to have a lifestyle with more freedom to do things. I can travel more, whatever it is you're working towards. So one of mine is, I've always wanted to have a place. I love Bar Harbor, Maine, and I'm actually going like a week from today. I'm going to be there.
Yeah.
And so one of my things is I've been going there every summer for like over 13 years. And I want a place there, whether it's a second home, a permanent home, I don't care. Like, I want something up there.
Yeah.
And so having this vision and this kind of bigger picture, a bigger plan, and that this is the stepping stones to get there, is the days when I was feeling, and I know I'll still have them, but the days you're feeling down, the days you're not motivated, the days you're beating yourself up because something didn't go well. I'll go online and I look at houses for sale, and I'll look at property for sale, and I imagine myself being there. And for me kind of visualizing and reminding, like, why am I doing this? What's the bigger goal? What's the bigger purpose? And what is it I'm wanting to bring into my life? And there were times where I was kind of like, oh, it's easier, I'll just stay with, whatever it is I'm doing. And, maybe I'm just going to reach this level with my business. and it's more because of just frustration, or you had a couple times, you know, things just weren't going well.
Right.
And you're working your butt off and you're not getting any sleep. And you're like, come on now, you know, where's this going?
Exactly.
And then I tell you, I go in and I start to visualize. I remind myself, I look at that house, you know, and I was looking at the builders and the model, you know, the structures and the homes. And I visualize, well, that's what I want. And this is the part of the island I want to have a home on, and, you know, and, you know, and that gets me motivated. But I, you know, and also I acknowledge that my vision may change. Like, this is what's driving me now, but I acknowledge that I may never have a home there. But, you know, if that vision and that desire changes, I promise you, there's going to be something that takes its place.
Right.
You know, I know me, there's always some, you know, I'm always, you know, striving for things and goals and improving myself. And so for me, it was having the mentors, having the community, having other people to help me, you know, have that self-talk to change my mind when I fall into those negative ways of thinking, but also having, you'd mentioned that vision and those kind of constant reminders of why am I doing this? And another thing that drives me is when I reach like my students and the people I coach, and I make huge changes in their lives, and they tell me, gosh, you know, this is just a transformed. Let me give you an example. One of my students, he's taking my canine fitness class to keep his dog fit and healthy, right? Yeah. And he sees me, you know, I'm going out and I'm exercising, I'm running with my dog, I'm boxing, and we're talking about fitness. And I'm finding a side effect of my class is, even though we're focusing on the dogs, a lot of the students, they start to live a healthier lifestyle. And one of my students the other day, he messaged me and he was like, thank you, Erica, since joining your program, my program for the dogs. He said, I've lost 90 pounds.
Yes. Social influence, who you surround yourself with. April said that earlier, who you surround yourself. Let me just really quickly because we have so many great comments before you get going. Erica. So Robert says, hashtag mic drop Erica. April says, April has a really funny comment. I visualize an island with 11 hot tubs.
Yeah, do it.
And then, yes, we need to stop living and give up America. Yes, absolutely, Jeff. April, the vision keeps you moving forward. Nancy, actually, and Roy, great quote, is your why bigger than your butt? Yes, absolutely. You need to understand your why. Nancy has a really great question. Nancy Sherwood. Do you ever find it hard to work on your business when you're working full-time as a teacher, or do you incorporate the two? For either professor, do you ever find it hard to work on your business? Oh, yeah. Okay, so she asked so I definitely have an answer for this, but I'm gonna definitely allow ladies first, please.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's a constant struggle.
It's insane.
It's a mindset. You know what I dealt with at first? I dealt with a lot of guilt. Like guilt, I'm not good enough here, or I wasn't investing enough time there, or, you know, always feeling like, you know, you can be doing better. I had to kind of deal with some of these guilty feelings that I'm not good enough at whatever it is I'm doing, and just kind of be content with I'm doing the best that I can. And that was something I struggled with. But one thing here is, and I always tell people, like, whether they're going for a PhD, whether they want to get a dissertation, whether they want to become an entrepreneur, I'm like, you really have to have something you're passionate about, because it's not easy. So
that's your fuel. That's your fuel.
For me, it's like, I can't wait until the end of the day when I get my university stuff done, because my business work is like, I mean, it's work. Yes, sometimes
it's your love.
But I use it as a reward. It'll be like, grade my papers for my students at the university. And once I turn in my grades, my reward is I can create my business class for my entrepreneurs, right?
Yep.
And so when you're so passionate about it, and another thing is, when you're so passionate about it, it is work, but a lot of times it doesn't feel like I'm excited. You know, I'll be up at 2 a.m. and I'm going to bed and I have all these creative ideas and I'm like, oh, I got to get out and get my laptop and get my ideas down. They come in the middle of the night. But it's, I do use it as like a reward, and but it is a balance in the sense that I have to, you get in this flow, and it's an amazing thing. You get in the flow, like you don't even realize, it'll be hours will go by and you don't even realize it, because you're so engaged and engrossed in what you're doing. But you also, you have to do that self-care. I make myself as like, even though it'll be times I want to work till 2, 3, 4, like I'm so excited about something I'm doing, but I have to be like,
I'm surprised sometimes how late you're up. I can't believe it. I'll get messages from Erica, and she's on the East Coast. I'm on the West Coast. It's like 1 in the morning,
night it was
my
like 3
time.
in the morning. Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah. But you know, a lot of people say that, you know, if you love it, to me, it's a labor of love.
Yeah.
It's not, it doesn't even feel like work. Of course it's work. And
but you have to take care of yourself too. You got to stop saying you need a day off. You need to go to the gym, or you know what? I know I need to email 15 people, but you know what? I'm not going to do it today. And I know maybe there's money in there, but that's okay because I need a breather and I need to get, you know, I need a shift. I need to go outside. I need to go for a run. So it's a balance and it's really hard, but when you're so passionate about what you do and you love it so much, you know, it's a totally, you know, different story, but you have to get good at managing time. You have to be self-disciplined,
prioritizing.
You have to give yourself those mental breaks. You have to not be a perfectionist.
And also Nancy says, thanks for the great answer. Passion is everything. If you don't love this, Robert says, your mindset changes when you start to look at the words you use: passion, vision, faith, believe. Roy says, self-care is a must for entrepreneurs, more so than others. If you don't love going live, if you don't love digital marketing, if you don't love your business, whatever, let's say, forget about online, forget about digital marketing. You have some kind of idea that you want to start a fitness blog, or you want to start a cooking business, something in the culinary arts, or you want to start your own telecom, company, whatever it is. It doesn't have to be, yes, April says, Peter Nez plus his 11 p.m. Eastern time live stream show. No sleep for April. But April, you're having the time of your life, aren't you, April? We love you, April. Thank you for watching.
Thank you, April.
Whatever it is, if you don't love doing it, why are you doing it? Because if you're doing it, something my mom taught me a long time ago, which is my first business coach, my first business teacher is my mom. I worked for my mom as a kid, struggling, trying to open up a leather, handbag shop and working our asses off, with nothing, literally. She taught me the very first lesson. She said, if you're just doing it for money, you're only going to do so much. But if you love doing it, you can't be good at it unless you love doing it. Now, love is kind of an overabused word, and it can mean there's a million different connotations. But my sort of specific definition is, what gets this thing pumping? What gets this thing pumping? You can feel it in your veins, your blood. It goes, the RPMs go up an extra 10, 15 RPMs, 20, 50, 100 RPMs. When you love doing it, you will be good at it. And Michael Jordan would not have been Michael Jordan if he didn't love the game. You have to love the game. Otherwise, there's just too many opportunities in this country. You have an opportunity. We're not living in the Soviet Union. We're not living in a third world country. You have the opportunity to do what you love. Hello. Yes, Erica.
Yeah, I was just
sorry, I got a little too excited. Sorry.
I was just thinking, I went to it was a research conference for the university last November. And I walked into a room and my colleagues were there, and they right away, a friend of mine, Ian, he's like, Erica, what are you doing? He was like, you are glowing. And he was like, you have to tell me what you're doing. And it was like, literally, it was once I started, just really getting involved and following the passion and touching lives and being able to teach others and share what it is, my passion, with others. And then you see them having the passion that you have and you share that. But literally, I had people, they're like, whenever I would talk about it, they'll say, they just see it. It just comes out, and he was literally like, you're glowing, like whatever you're drinking, I want some.
I'll have what she's having. Irv, table 12, please. April says, people with an entitlement mindsets are totally missing out on the blessings from the journey. Josh says, love the passion. Thank you, Jeff. Jeff says, my tachometer is always in the red zone. I posted something recently, and I think I talked about this with Molly, but I shared something on social media, which I don't usually share. My intention was not to derive pity or sympathy. I don't know if you saw this post, Erica.
I did.
But, I just wanted to be transparent. I really came from a genuine need to be very honest. And I got complaints from my students saying, don't you find it funny, Professor Nez, how everything I see on social media is so candy canes and unicorns and glossy, and everybody's happy and playing with their dogs and playing
Life
with
is
their
wonderful.
kids. Yeah, life. But I, you know, and
My
I thought to
relationships
myself,
are wonderful.
yeah, and I thought to myself, I go, gosh, you're right. It is really a bunch of BS. And then one day I felt miserable, which everybody has those days. You have
Yeah.
your ups and your downs.
Yeah.
I felt miserable, and I said, you know, and that thought, that student of mine, you know, flung into my head. And I said, you know what? I felt really reticent sharing this. I felt very apprehensive and anxietal sharing this, but I clicked post, I clicked submit, and it went out, and I got a ton of comments, I had somebody today actually who has been a longtime friend of mine, said, I thought that was the most authentic post you ever posted. I loved it. That's how people really feel. And again, I thought I was pretty succinct, saying that I wasn't looking for pity. I was just sharing that I'm fine, even though I got a lot of pity stuff. And that's fine. I don't judge anybody. I'm not trying to say you shouldn't have done that or anything like that. But yeah, it's interesting. Like tachometer, I was thinking about just Jeff comments. Tachometer is always in the red. Thank you, Jeff. I appreciate it. Thank you, April, Roy. Thank you so much. You know, it's a tough gig being, this is not a beautiful carousel. It's not an easy, there's no such thing.
The
Alex
journey.
Kahn. Yeah, it's the journey.
Journey.
Alex Kahn said it beautifully. He said it takes a lifetime to be an overnight success. It takes a lifetime to be an overnight success. Yeah. And of course, everybody knows Gary Vee talks about the hustle and the work ethic and all that. Absolutely. I speak Bluntanese just like you. Thank you, Roy. Jeff, I had no problem with it. I appreciate you sharing it. Thank you. April, life is not always the highlight reel. Absolutely. Beautiful comments. You guys rock, Nez Nation. I love you guys. And I think it's important that we talk about this a little bit because, yeah, we work our day jobs just like everybody does, but this is a project. These are other projects. It's not to neglect those duties. We, as you heard from Erica, Dr. Boling say, you know, I make sure I do my due diligence and then I reward myself, right? I reward myself after I've done all of my, you know, work that's a, you know, necessity for my day gig. Then I work on my side hustle. And I think majority of people watching on the replay and just in the digital ecosystem itself are in the same boat. It's where do I find the time? And I've got 2 kids. I've got a wife. I've got a mortgage. I've got a lot of other responsibilities. I can't just neglect my kids. And that was part of the reason for the post too, was that I was being a little bit negligent, which is natural. I want you guys to know that Erica is not perfect. In her tips, in her PDF, in her list that she's going to share with us, her beautiful, you know, kind of handout, there's no such thing as perfection. And even though we're laughing and having a good time and we're passionate, we're excited, and I love the interaction, we have our bad days. We are not perfect. We are definitely imbued with all of the insecurities, anxieties. And I think it's important to talk about that. Erica, what are your thoughts? I mean, do you think it's important to be transparent? Do you think that it should just all be, what's your thoughts on social media? I mean, that's kind of one of my questions later on, but go ahead and answer that now.
What I find is, and it kind of goes back to where I mentioned some of your, you know, your greatest teachers are, you know, learning from your failures, and the times where I've failed and I've kind of been at my lowest low. I'm thinking when I was competing with my dog and it was like a entry level, like something that should have been easy. We not only did we fail it once, we failed it twice, you know, after, you know, practicing for a whole nother year. And like, I was devastated. Like I put years of work into this, but what happens is when you have those failures and those lows, or those times when you're feeling really down, is like you said, everybody has those feelings. And so I find that when you share that, you share your struggles, when you share the times where you're feeling down, or you're, you know, when things aren't going well, and how do you, work through that, that's how you connect to others on that human level. And they start to see, they see that they're not alone. They see that what they're going through is not an isolated case. They see somebody who maybe they say, oh, look at how successful they are. Oh my gosh, they're so successful, but look, they still feel insecure, at times. And I find that I share those experiences to, as, teachable moments. But I also find that when I open myself up like that, I reach and I touch others in a very human way that impacts them. And a perfect example is there's a couple times where I've been teaching both my university students and my canine conditioning students, and where like I got emotional, like, you know, like I was crying. And I mean, I'm not a person, like, I'm not a person, you know, I'm a pretty independent, strong-willed, strong-minded. I'm, you know, I'm not a person that I'm kind of going around weepy and, you know, and don't really show that.
You're not one to wear your emotions on your sleeve.
Especially to my students,
especially to your students in a professional context. Yeah.
Yeah. And the first time I did it, like, I was just kind of, well, sometimes I would show these movies to my students in the digital storytelling, the lights would be dim, and I'd make sure I wipe my eyes off, you know, before they turn the lights on.
Wow.
But then one time I, you know, my students saw it, and then I felt really, you know, I talked to my, you know, my mentors and my group of people, and I was like, oh man, I wish I hadn't done that. And I was like, oh, you know, I kind of regretted doing it. And they're like, no, it's like showing, you know, you're human,
real side.
And that you can, but you know, the response I had from the people and from my students, it was just amazing. And so what happened was, the first time I doubted it, but then I had this amazing response. And then the next time, my students in my digital storytelling class were sharing some very, very personal things in their videos.
Right.
And they were getting very emotional. And at the end it was the last day of the semester, our last class. And I said, you know what, you guys have shared something so personal, and so these amazing personal stories. You've been open. You've been so trusting. I said, I'm going to share something with you that I've never shared.
Oh, wow.
With any of my colleagues or any of my other students. And I got a little emotional when I was sharing, and it was just, you know, I had a point for what I was sharing, but the response from the students, because, you know, you create that environment, that trusting, that openness. And I find that when I share the struggles, when I share my failures, that they relate, and it helps on various levels.
And, you know, I think pathos, I love what you said, Eric, and God bless you for sharing. I'm sure your students appreciate it. I can attest to this. And Robert had a great comment. April, storytelling is powerful stuff. I'm going to get to that in a second. I was talking about the power of communication, the power of your ability to communicate who you are specifically to a targeted audience with power, right? With pathos, with emotion. And I kind of veered. It was one of my, you know, I'm probably the exact opposite of Erica. I think I share way too much to my students. I feel like my students are probably like, can you just shut up and get to the boring stuff? Like, you're way too much energy, way too much personal life. You're way too emotional. And I wasn't even thinking about going there, and it just happened. I mentioned the fact that I had a friend who ended his life. A really good friend, a young guy. He was only 54 years old. He had a kid too, and he took his life. And he never communicated, because the thesis was the sort of the theme of the class was the power of words and language. Yes. And he never communicated his deep-seated suffering he was going through to anybody. None of his friends, his family, didn't even see it coming. But there, after a lot of investigation, after the incident, and after a lot of probing, it was discovered that he was suffering for a very long time. He just kept it quiet. Yeah. And I went there, and I started crying, and I did what you did, and I got really emotional, and I apologized, to everybody in class. And as they were even leaving, I apologized. I'm telling you, Erica, I got 1,000 emails. I got 1,000 people coming to my office, and they said, your story moved me to pieces. I told all my friends, they all want to take your classes. And I was like, oh my God, like, I felt like I totally stepped over bounds there. I shouldn't have gotten that personal but it was one of those things when you're in the moment. Exactly. And the fire is erupting out of your pores. And you're just, when I'm in my element, when I'm in front of my class, I'm in front of stages, when I'm doing my live video, I love to just, I don't hold back. I've learned that when I hold back, it comes off very stiff, rigid, and monotonous. And I just go all in. And ever since that class, that was a really long time ago. Ever since that class, it's always been sort of like my compass reminding me, you know what, people are human. Like you said earlier, you said human beings. We're all human beings. And, you know, we need to communicate with each other. We need to engage with each other. So I love what you said. We're already passing. Wow. It feels like I've only been talking to you for 5 minutes. We're already passing the hour mark. Roy says, imperfect people relate better with imperfect people. April says, we all need a safe environment where we can share our guilt and shame stories. Vulnerability equals being real. Absolutely.
Yes.
Thank you. So I have, first of all, I want to just say, hasn't Erica been just full of value? Unbelievable advice, unbelievable information about what you do and how you leverage. And again, she's going to be sharing all of her contact information and her beautiful handout, which is chock full of tips and strategies and advice and great value. She's going to be sharing that in the comments. Before I go into, I've been working on this with my Nez Nation live show. It's a new twist. I've been asking every guest. I say every guest. It started with Alex Kahn today.
Today.
It actually started today.
One.
Yes. Oh, Jeff says one of the best guests so far. So thankful. Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. You see how awesome you are, Erica?
Thank you.
Don't let that guy inside your head win. Hey, Nez Nation, look at Professor Nez right now. Don't let this guy win. He's the only thing getting in your own way, period.
Yes.
It's not Trump. It's not your friends. It's not your BFF. It's not your girlfriend. It's this dude. That's the only thing stopping you in life, period. Yep. So I've been asking these 3 questions of my guests at the end of every show. And this is something that I'm really proud of. I kind of worked hard on it. And I'm going to ask you, are you ready, Erica, for the final round of deep questions these are deep questions from Professor Nez, where we get to know a little bit more about what makes Erica tick.
All right.
Okay, the first question is, what inspires you, Dr. Boling? What inspires Erica? What motivates you? It can be anything. What do you
passion. And various things, from the outdoors, the dogs. I like kayaking, to connecting with people, being able to have a positive impact on others, inspiring others, and sharing that passion and seeing it in others, that I can have that effect on others.
That's so funny. Alex said the exact same thing. I think Alex almost literally mirrored what you said. He said something very interesting. He said, and by the way, if you didn't see Alex Kahn's show, he is an unbelievable. Yeah, he is an unbelievable dude in the live streaming space, social media coach from Germany. That show this morning blew my mind, much like the show that's happening right now. We're not even done yet. And he said the same thing. He said, when I see a client take what I've given them, when I see any of my, all the people, yes, thank you, April. When I see people who take my advice and they heed my advice and they apply it and they see results and they tell me how thankful they are.
And their confidence, to see their confidence.
To see their confidence. Yes. He says that inspires me, that motivates me, and that gets me going. Very great answer, Erica. Okay, the second question I have is, what do you feel is what is your biggest concern in the digital ecosystem, social media, and just this 21st century world that we're living in, 2017? What's your biggest, what concerns Dr. Boling the most?
I guess on 2 levels. Number one is,
it doesn't have to be one thing. Yeah, it doesn't have to be
one thing that concerns me is, we talked about the slowness of change in education and our education system. And I'm really we have to make change, or we're just falling further and further behind when it comes to just, technology and the internet and social media and the power, of the things we can do. That's one thing that I really think we need to change if we really want to, advance as a society.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, we are not ourselves, and we're not teaching our children to be critical thinkers, critical literacy skills. People too easily just accept and believe what they see.
Yeah.
I
love that. I love the way you said that. I love that.
Yeah, I see it, from children all the way through adults. And, it's like when people do a Google search, research shows you typically they take the first couple things that come up on Google. Almost nobody goes to page 2 of the searches, or they don't even investigate who the hell is this person. It's just some stupid blog. Yeah.
Who is this person?
If it looks professional, if it looks reputable, then it's
visual.
It's reputable.
That's true. I love what you said. This is exactly what I advocate in all of my classes, with all of my clients, with everything. Thank you so much, April. And I love the story about life and death. There's a beautiful story that Alex shares that he got from his father. Critical thinking, investigation. Who are these people? What are they saying? What are their credentials? Who's Professor Nez? Who's Dr. Boling? Why are we even worth listening to? Investigate everybody. It's not, some people equate this with, gosh, are you paranoid? No. It's not about paranoia. It's about a healthy intuition. It's about a healthy mindset of, you know what, if I'm going to listen to this person, if I'm going to really heed their advice and apply it to my life, which is only one life, as far as I know, unless you know something I don't, well, then maybe you should do a little investigating, right? You do have to be your own private detective. I really feel that strong. You have to be your own Sherlock Holmes.
Do your research. And
do
then
your
make
research.
Your
I mean, you're a researcher, Dr. Boling. You know this better than anybody.
Yeah.
Yes, Jeff, absolutely. Roy, yes, absolutely. Yeah, Jeff. Okay, so the last question. So these are great, great answers. Thank you, Erica. The last question, my favorite question. It doesn't have to necessarily be one thing, but what is the one thing that you've gotten in your life that you've received? It can be anything. It could be something your grandfather said to you. It can be something from your personal, professional life. What is the one thing in your life that has stuck with you, that has helped you time and time again, that you constantly go back to? Any kind of device, any technique, any strategy, one thing that has just stuck with you through the years that has been just your kind of staple go-to in any situation, whether it be personal, professional. It can be like, there's this quote by Oscar Wilde. It can be something my grandfather said, anything. It could be anything. One thing that you can share with our NEZNATION audience that has always been sort of like your North Star, something that you followed, something that's helped you, in anything.
I think it's been growing up. I was always taught, I was like the only girl on the boys' little league team, and, wanted to do, all kinds of crazy things that my peers weren't doing. And my mom and my dad, it was, they always kind of instilled in me that I can be whatever I want to be. I can do whatever I want to do. It didn't matter, whether, if I'm female or, if it's something that's never been done before, or I don't have people, kind of, making those trails ahead of me, but kind of putting the time and the dedication into it, and just kind of having the belief that I can take control of my life. And I also live in my life. I never live with regret. When I look at past experiences, failed relationships, bad decisions I made, I'm happy to say if I had to live my life over again, there's not one thing I would do differently. Nice. Because I've learned from everything along the way, and it's made me who I am. So I hate when people make decisions and then they're just constantly kicking themselves and, I shouldn't be, because I don't want to live my life saying I should have done that, or what if I did that, or what if I did that. But just knowing that, having faith that this is the path that I'm on, and being open to new opportunities. And even when things go wrong, or you make bad decisions, or things are not going well, that, that's makes you who you are, and you learn from that.
And that's something that was instilled in you growing up in your family. Yeah,
it's stuff that I don't, the belief in kind of being able to, be independent and strive to be what, do anything that I want to do, as long as, I put the work and the effort. I've always naturally, like when I was a little kid in elementary school, most parents are telling their kids, like, do your homework. And my mom would be, stop doing your homework, stop doing your homework. So, I mean, some of it is just, my siblings grew up in the same home, and we're very different. So, part of it is, just kind of my, of course, my drive and my nature, but also, I have friends that grew up in families where they're told, being a, woman, you have to be married, you have to, have a, you need to marry a doctor, or you need to have a certain type of job, and, or being told you can't do this, you can't do that. And I never really heard that growing up.
Right. That's really great.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Okay. Well, those are just fantastic. Thank you so much, Erica. I just want to say right now, this has been, thank you everybody who's been watching, Jeff, Robert, Roy, April, Josh, all you guys who've been watching and leaving your comments, Addie, and Sherwood, Miss Sherwood. I forgot your first name. Sorry. Okay. And, love Nancy. thank you so much for watching. And I just want to say thank you to our unbelievable guest, Dr. Erica Boling. Don't forget, Nez Nation, she's going to be leaving that handout. As a matter of fact, let's get a roll call. How many people want that handout again? Leave handout. Put handout in the comments, and Erica is going to be leaving that in the show as soon as we're done with the broadcast. Thank you, Roy. Thank you, Jeff. Jeff has an interesting question. So given another shot, you wouldn't have started your business any sooner? You wouldn't have started your business any sooner given another shot? I would have definitely started sooner. I would have. But as a matter of fact, if you listen to what Ruth, thank you, Josh.
I don't think I would be this successful if I had started sooner.
Yeah, that's another thing, is that everything was prologue to this. Like, everything led to this. So if I didn't have this Professor Nez mentality, mindset, heart set, if Erica didn't have this mindset, heart set, this experience, would her business have been really what it should be? I don't know. And plus, what ifs? I mean, what ifs? I don't like contemplating what ifs. I really don't. On behalf of me, your host, Professor Nez, I want to just say, Erica, and behalf of the Nez Nation audience, we adore you. Thank you so much for being on the show. Thank you for everything that you have offered us here and everything that you've provided. You've been just an awesome, awesome guest. And really quickly, before you leave, tell our Nez Nation audience, I know you're going to leave everything in the comments as well, but tell our Nez Nation audience just a little bit about where they may be able to find you. Just those of on the replay and watching now can get a taste before you leave comments below. Go ahead, please.
Yep, I do have a business website. It's northeastcanineconditioning.com. It's Northeast Canine. It's the letter K and the number 9. So northeastcanineconditioning.com. So that's the canine business side of my life. My Facebook friends, I'll accept as many friends as I can, but I'm getting close to my limit. But I also have Northeast Canine Conditioning. I also have a business page. So if you look at Northeast, and it's also connected to my profile. But I'm going to start doing, it'll be starting soon, but I'm going to be doing weekly live shows on Facebook on turning your passion to profit. And so if you think you want to follow that, if you like and follow my business page, Northeast Canine Conditioning, I'll put some, notices on my personal page, but I'll also be hosting those shows on my business page.
Awesome.
And if they download the handout, I'll get their email address. So whenever I'm having, webinars in July, I'm going to be having a free webinar and kind of talking about this from educator to entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And if they download, I'll have their email and I'll let them know when the free webinar's coming up. I also do, I do one-on-one, I do private coaching, business consultation, and I do have a business class, kind of turning that passion to profit. I'm going to be up in Maine in June, but when I come back in July, I'll be announcing that and doing enrollment for that too.
Awesome. And thank you, Addie. Addie just left the website, northeastcanineconditioning.com.
And Addie's a graduate from my program.
Addie, you're awesome, Addie.
Canine athlete specialist from Israel. So
from Israel. Yes, that's awesome. And by the way, don't forget, she's going to leave all this in the comments as well. And also, if you're new to my page, please hit like up above. Make sure you hit the follow button. You'll always get notified when we do new live shows. And I'm posting constant content pretty much daily, weekly, every hour sometimes. Articles related to storytelling, communications, writing, video creation, live video, live streaming, everything, pretty much communications in the 21st century, and how you can mindset stuff, how you can discover who you are. And my YouTube channel, just open your app, go search it on Google, just search Professor Nez, same name, and you'll find my YouTube channel. Please make sure that you subscribe to that, as I'm putting inspirational videos weekly on there as well. So, ladies and gentlemen, I just want to thank you again for being on the show. Erica, thank you guys all for watching. And please don't forget to come back and check out the replay and check out all the comments that we're going to leave in the handout. And until next time, this is your host, Professor Nez, saying thank you so much. Have a wonderful evening, and we'll see you guys next time. Thank you, guys. You guys are awesome.